Hi, everyone. This is Kimberly Miller, your holistic health expert, and here for another episode on the Healing with Excellence podcast. If you remember, we do these podcasts completely improv, not edited, because I don't have time for all that. I just want to share the real information with you to the best of my ability. And today we have a special guest that is definitely in line with me on all that. We just want to get out authentic information to help save each of you time, money, and quality of life. So I'd like to introduce to you Miss Jessica Smith.
Hey,
How are
thank you
you?
so much for having me on. This is my first podcast guest spot.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so honored to have you as the first guest. And I haven't done any other guests like this other than when Carmela and I just did a recording about her dog situation. But I have been having clients recently and students and colleagues asking, could we do this? And I just felt like when you and I spoke the other day, like we need to get the word out because there's too many people suffering, and it's just not fair that this knowledge is not common. It should be in every medical training program, right? So Jessica is a registered nurse. And then Jess, how long have you been a registered nurse?
I've worked in the hospital setting for 18 years. I became a nurse in '09. So every year that ticks by, it's like, how long have I been a nurse? It's just easier to say I became a registered nurse in '09.
Okay, but yeah, that's still, I mean, that's phenomenal. Now, can you give me just a little bit of your background as to what roles you played in the medical field before you and I met?
Absolutely. Yes. I had a friend that was a nurse that told me, oh, you should become a nurse. My husband said, hey, you need to go to college. You're too smart to not have a degree. So I was like, okay, I don't know about that, but sounds good. We need some financial stability, right?
Mhm.
And job security. So my friend told me I'd make a great nurse and decided, okay, well, let me work in the hospital first. So I did a while as a CNA, certified nurse assistant. That's what we call them in Tennessee.
Mhm.
And I did that through nursing school. I did that. And then graduated as a nurse. And when I first started, I worked high acuity. So basically in a step down unit. Um, I loved it at first. I mean, it fascinated me. I really thought I'm going to get in, I'm going to help people, I'm going to have all of the magic tools that are going to actually improve people's health, and it'll be a great avenue I can talk to, just really get in there and make a difference. And actually within my first year, I'm not sure even if I've gone over this in this much detail with you before this podcast. So some of this information might be new for you too.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't forget to paraphrase because I only get about 3 minutes with you. No,
yes.
but it's
Um,
okay. I love you.
and I actually had my first episode with a hemorrhoid and hemorrhoidectomy that led to an anal fissure.
Mm.
Um, and so that was actually a first time that happened.
When was
So
that? When would you say?
that was back in around 2010.
Well, and it's so funny. People are like, how did this just take a left turn? Like we went from her career to her hemorrhoid. No,
Yes,
again, we said
yes,
this is going to be real, unedited.
yeah,
And so we feel that there's not enough people talking about certain things people are suffering with. Like literally, some men can't even go to a urologist and talk about things with like erectile dysfunction or pelvic floor pain, or there's no answers. And the same thing's happening with various female issues. And what Jess and I are going to talk about today, men and women are dealing with this. So
yeah,
she's just explaining like way back in 2010, where she just started getting a health issue where she started having hemorrhoids and then changed into the diagnosis of a fissure. And
yeah.
again, we'll post information about that for those of you that don't have a history behind that. And again, I know it's TMI, but you never know if you've never experienced anything like this, you could in the future or a family member. So we might just be planting a seed with you today, but I promise you there's something in this podcast that's going to help you or your family in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and the high stress, basically my entire career, I did primarily float pool. I would never really settle down with I'm settled down in my married life. Like I'm fully committed, but I would never commit in my career. I'm like float pool. I did pretty much all the units. I did not ever circulate like in the OR or anything like that. But yeah, I really had a desire to learn. I've been very, once I get onto something, I'm a dog with a bone. I'm, like you can't get me off of it. So, and then my family and I moved to Florida. And I ended up having to quit that first job because of that diagnosis. At the time, I didn't know about holistic healing. Went through homeopathy. I knew that I didn't want to do like I had been through, I'll get more into this in a minute once I finish the quick recap of the career. I knew I wanted something alternative because of the experience I'd had with modern medicine, ironically. So yeah, always high stress. When we moved down here, again, float pool, worked all around, charge nurse. And then the last bit, when I was working in the hospital setting, I was a case manager. That was also kind of delaying the inevitable. It was during the pandemic. Again, very high stress. My health goes on the back burner, et cetera, which led me to round two of the same situation. Anal fissure developed, and I was, I think, a little more motivated to find something,
Yeah.
besides modern medicine. I didn't do any of the things that I had done before.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because so when you was it 2021 that you reached out to me? The last time, not the.
Oh, yeah, that little random in like what,
Yeah.
2016. 20, this is 24, 23, 22. 22, I believe it's 22.
Okay, yeah. So just to give people some background, in 2022, Jess messaged me to get help with this ailment, this diagnosis, because it was really causing disabling pain. She was going out on leave from work and was trying to figure out if there was a source for healing or how to accelerate healing. Well, it was so funny. I didn't know it because in 2016, she had sent me a message 6 years prior about learning what I do or being interested in holistic healthcare. But because we weren't friends on Facebook, it went to like that other area. And I never saw it till after we communicated about her health. I'm like, oh my gosh, since 2016, she has been contemplating this. And, we'll get a little bit into this that some of you may or may not have a belief in, but sometimes a health issue has to get so chronic to force you out of an uncomfortable area or a space that you're not supposed to be in order to either connect you with someone that you need to go into your next calling or to help you separate from that toxic either work relationship, friendship, health, spousal relationship, whatever it is that's causing the dysfunction. The health issue might need to get so bad to force you to keep seeking. And that's kind of what Jess and I realized once we met, that it was much bigger than the diagnosis. And it was really about a complete evolution of who she was and being willing to let go of who she was to become who she was meant to be and to do the work that she was like kind of passionate about. So when you reached out and we met to start going through your health history, it's hard because now it's been a couple years, but what did you feel was different about our approach together to your healing than what you had seen in the past?
Everything. The one reason I think that the homeopathic route helped me, even though I think it was just a temporary, fix, was that there was more of a holistic approach. But I've had many different approaches. I mean, I went to, like I said, the hemorrhoid happened. Everybody's like, oh, everybody gets hemorrhoids. And I was like, okay. I mean,
Yeah, I've been supposed to live with this. Yeah.
like, why are we okay with it then?
Yeah, exactly.
Why have we not eradicated it? Because, anyways. But yeah, I went and saw a colorectal surgeon. Had an in-office hemorrhoidectomy. And the whole time I was bringing up, shouldn't maybe I do this, or shouldn't I? And I kept asking, shouldn't I change something with the way I'm eating or what I'm doing? Like, why are we just immediately going in, and doing these things? And I did research. I knew like pain meds were going to be bad because they would constipate me, and but I tried all of those routes, pharmaceuticals, surgical interventions. And I was not getting better, I was getting worse. And when it turned into I had to leave my job, that was when I was like, well, I have to do something drastic. So that's when I went the homeopathic route, which was, there was a portion of that that was talking to me and was allowing me that space to address things in more of a holistic way. And as far as when we connected, in 22, I had not, I had just been trying by following my gut. I knew I wasn't going to any surgeon. I knew what I was not going to do, but knowing what you're not going to do doesn't really help you heal. It just kind of kept me from maybe getting worse, I think. So yeah, I've tried, in my opinion, every route for healing for that, except for what I needed at that point.
So I'm just going to give people the quick $1,000 nugget right now on the, just to give them the quick answer to hemorrhoids, to help people that might be in the early stages of this. And then we can get a little bit deeper. And then Jess and I are going to just give enough to give you some background and insight. And then her and I have a different podcast to record together to explain why this inspired her to become a Healing with Excellence practitioner and neuromuscular restoration specialist, and just kind of other questions about like women's health and hormones and things that we see weekly within the clients that we meet with. But the most common cause to hemorrhoids, 3 top things, are protein deficiency, a B12 deficiency, and a neuromuscular compensation. So some people don't realize the pelvic floor muscles can become hypertonic, and they can overwork for other muscles that aren't working effectively, like your core or your glutes. And when those muscles get too tight or they work too much, contracting at a greater force than what they should be, they'll create pressure in the area and can create a hemorrhoid. If you have a B12 deficiency, and you can Google B12 deficiency and hemorrhoids, you're probably going to see this. Or if you have a protein deficiency that ruins the integrity of the tautness of your skin, or like your cartilage or your ligaments or tendons, you're more than likely to get a hemorrhoid. So those are the most common causes, other than like maybe being pregnant. But even then, during pregnancy, it's mostly often because B12, protein deficiency, or pelvic floor problem. Now, again, that's giving you like the, the generic overarching thing, but you still need to most likely get an assessment. You can try the quick, simple things like increasing animal protein and having a B12, but if it doesn't get better, you need to get with a holistic health expert that understands this. And just to explain, holistic means looking at the whole person, not negating medicine. Medicine may have its space, that's what holistic means, but looking at every part of your body and how it connects, like we're talking about neuromuscular, nutrition, stress, that kind of stuff. And excess stress in your life, whether it's perceived stress or cellular stress, creates the need for more B12 and protein and sleep and things to that effect. So we're assessing where things are out of alignment and help bring things back into alignment for homeostasis. Homeopathy is a little bit different, but some people mistake those two. So I don't really practice homeopathy. I have some belief in it, and it would be a piece in a protocol if needed, but it's definitely not something I rely on as a total healing, because you really have to look at lifestyle, neuromuscular function, nutrition, all those things, toxic environments. And again, some people heal just by B12 and more protein. Other people, you got to dig a little deeper, like Jess experienced, that we had to make a complete life change for her to heal, because it really wasn't about the symptom, the side effect. It was the root cause of her not being able to live her truth and trying to learn how to live her truth. Would you agree with that, Jess?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And how long would you say, because, again, some people, they heal in a month. Other people, it's a longer journey and it can get very discouraging. How long would you say it took you to feel like you got to pretty solid healing foundation and to feel empowered that you're kind of always in control of this versus powerless?
A year.
Okay.
I would say it took me about a year to really feel like the voices in my head that were like, am I ever gonna heal? Is this ever going to get better? Is this, because like you mentioned pregnancy, that actually was the first time I was ever told that I had a hemorrhoid. I didn't feel it at that time. I think there was just a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, there is a lot
Pregnancy,
going
I was
on. You
like,
don't feel
okay,
like,
I trust you. Whatever
yeah,
you say is going on over
yeah.
there,
Just
but
get this baby out. Yeah.
let's just go, you know? And I was 20, 21. I was 21 when I had my son. So, so like from, you know, for that long, you know, of a time, I know I look like I'm still in my 20s, but,
You do. You look great.
no, I'm just playing.
I know.
No, mid 40s here,
Yeah, we're
but
both in our 40s. Yeah. I know.
yeah, so like that long of a time span, you know, for this, so this did not happen overnight. And I kept telling myself that, and your encouragement also, you know, like just the way that when the faith that you had in my body and my ability to heal was really like that. Just I heard that in my head. I have a wonderful husband that supports me through everything. And so even his, you know, those support pieces, all you need is one or two. And if they're strong enough, then it gets you through those moments. But like I would say for a year, and I'm gauging that also by, you know, pain. Um, like I really felt like I had a grip on the pain, the symptoms.
Mhm.
I feel like some decisions had been made, like you were mentioning about the um, basically the cognitive dissonance that I'd been experiencing.
Yep.
I was resolving that. So yeah, a year.
Wow.
Then yeah. So I mean, and sometimes it's like it wasn't that I didn't feel like it was gonna work for a year. It
Hmm.
was that, you know, each day, each week, each month would build. And I had to break down that, you know, I mentioned I was very driven and like very, you know, um,
Yes. Making you take a step back was not easy.
yes,
That's common with people that are like us. Yeah. You
yes.
know? Yeah.
So yeah, but then as, you know, month over month, when I would go, you know, it was like I'd have a day without pain or very minimal pain where I'd be like, okay, I can breathe. It's kind of
Mhm.
like labor pains, really. Like it would be in waves, right? And then I'd have a couple days without pain, and it just grew to where then it was I'd have a month without pain, except for maybe 1 or 2 days. So then it flipped, and
Mhm.
that was about at the year mark when I felt like I could see the progress. It wasn't just the tiny little incremental bits anymore. It was okay, big
Yeah.
progress. This is it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said, and what a lot of people don't realize happens internally, it takes time for cells to regenerate. They can't just regenerate in 2 weeks because we decided to treat our body well. They didn't degenerate or mutate overnight. It took time for the stress, malnourishment, exercise dysfunction, or neuromuscular dysfunction to take a toll on the body. So again, what's so amazing about the human body, okay, you had your first experience possibly in your 20s. Then you knew for sure in like 2010. So even though a year was a while, it took 1 year to almost relate 20 years of dysfunction. And again, the dysfunction probably happened in your teen years, and then it just has a cumulative effect. So what people don't realize, our body has to slough off old cells and renew, regenerate with healthier cells. Well, because the body's working to pump your heart, brain, and lungs every day and to keep you alive for your daily activity, it can't just renew every cell overnight. It's kind of in phases. So like if you experience osteoporosis, it starts like in one hip or one part of your spine, and then the other hip, it progresses. It doesn't, not all of your bones become porotic just overnight. It takes time. And so when you're healing osteoporosis, it's the same way. It goes in phases. So healing is not linear. It's like exactly what you said. I tell people, look for like the moments of little light. So, okay, we got a little bit of light by an hour of pain relief. Now we got a little bit of light because 1 day of pain relief. And that's really how it happens, because the body, we just don't give our body credit for how much it's doing each day to keep 11 organ systems operating in that day. and then trying to heal damaged tissue on top of it as we're aging. And some people don't believe that we can heal as we're aging. They just believe what you have is what you have, like the hemorrhoids. I mean, what, at 20, you're supposed to live at hemorrhoids the rest of your life that could become disabling, or get continual surgeries for them when they're completely reversible and manageable, just like if I burn my skin on the stove or I scrape it and I don't pick off the scab and I leave it alone, it takes about 2 weeks for that skin to regenerate, sometimes longer if we're missing something. But the internal body and that tissue is the same way. Like if you learn what's offending the tissue or destroying the tissue integrity, and you learn what to do to take the stress away from the tissue, the body can actually go into regeneration. But if the offending factors are still there, like the diet or the neuromuscular problem or the extreme stress, how can the body heal from nothing? Or by operating the same way we've always done that created the problem, we can't be who we are or who we were on the other side of healing, because who we were operating as is what created the problem. So we're kind of going through this true evolution, a true renewing of our heart, and a true change in how we treat our body like a temple. Would you agree with that?
100%. And like that also brings to mind, like, it wasn't, there were definitely deficiencies. Like, this is to me why it's so important to look at things from a holistic standpoint, because I'd already done, it's to me the difference between strategy and tactics. Strategy is the overarching, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then the tactics are, okay, here's how we're going to do it. If you're just grabbing tactics and you're trying to just do all these tactics just because somebody says that they're good or somebody lost weight, because that's been a huge thing for me, is it's always been about chasing the weight. It's been about, looking the part. So, for me, I was absolutely like, not only was I burning the candle at both ends, I was not putting anything in, I wasn't even putting fuel in the candle. Like there was no wick. Like I was melting the candle at both ends,
Flushing the
And
candle. Yeah.
yes, I was, but it's so important to think about, how am I treating my body like a temple, or just trying to make it look like a temple? And there's a huge difference. And I definitely, I mean, you can look at every single aspect, and with the exception of my family, thank goodness, like my nucleus of a family is, I believe, what saved me and gave me faith that, no matter what was happening with me, it was going to be okay. I just needed to quit doing what, like the self-sabotage kind of thing, but yeah, I was not eating in a way that supported health. I thought I was, and I'm grateful that I went through that experience, because I needed to learn a lesson. And I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't, again, all the things on the outside though were lined up, and I was getting lots of external praise for losing a bunch of weight.
Oh yeah, that's not good. Yeah. Not if it's not done the right way. Yeah.
At that time, yes. But nobody knew what was going on. So that was something that was really hard to let go of. But when you experience the kind of pain I was experiencing, I didn't care. At that point, I was like, everything can change, please. Let's change everything.
Okay, well, let's get real here with that. Some people think just losing weight is going to make life great. I know for me, the leanest and fittest I've ever been, I had multiple diagnoses because I did not know how to do it in a healthy way. I thought I was healthy, but like you, I was doing the wrong things, like different shakes and bars and overtraining. So everybody thought I was amazing, but I literally had multiple diagnoses. So I looked good on the outside, dying on the inside, and then that slowly starts to show externally too. But we don't realize that certain ways we lose weight, it creates a wasting effect. And we're not just losing body fat, we're losing healthy tissue like bone, muscle, cartilage. That's what opens us up for these symptoms. So someone could be congratulating you for weight loss and they don't realize that you're actually creating a chronic disease or maybe even an early death. It seems like it's no big deal, but it's really a big deal. So I'm grateful that you're willing to go through this evolution. And sometimes when people are trying to learn their metabolism in a healthy, lasting way, they may stay the same weight or they might gain a little weight while they heal. And then once they feel solid with their healing, they can start focus on the weight loss itself, like how to maybe drill it down a little bit more to fat burning. And so a lot of people go through that stage. But if they only do things for fat loss or weight loss, rarely do they get both long term. Like they rarely heal and they rarely keep the weight off long term. So if we can focus on treating our body like a gift, fueling the metabolism to where your body can be as healthy and fit as possible, you're going to be able to do all the things you want to do, like exercise effectively and live life. But where I was going with this is some people think the skinnier I am, the better my life gets. But think about the way you were losing weight. I'm sure you weren't being intimate with your husband when you were having an active anal fissure and issues with your hemorrhoids. Like, how are you going to enjoy your spouse when you can barely walk or you feel crippled? Then you're missing work. So great, you're down 30 pounds on the scale, but you're not getting laid. You're not happy. You're having to put a smile on for everybody else. So how does that still make life great? And so I explain to people, nobody cares what size you are in your coffin. If you can be, even if you're 50 pounds overweight to start, but you can be healthy, vital, and you have a spouse or people that love you because they don't care about your scale weight, they just love you, and you can actually live life, like go to the beach, go to work, be intimate, that is true success. Then you can continue to focus on how do I lose weight in a healthy way to where I get the best of all worlds, because you can really have it. Healing a chronic disease is actually easier than losing fat in this day and age because of how toxic our environment is and how the food has changed and the stress has changed our endocrine system. It is harder than ever before. That's why 2/3 of America is overweight or obese. It's not because they're trying to be. Even the healthy people are having a tough time keeping weight off because of even like we're exposed to so many cellular stressors between electromagnetic activity, the chemicals are exposed to, the food changes, the thinking we can keep working with no food. So as a whole, it's a lot to sort through, but I started as a fitness and weight loss expert and then evolved into a holistic health coach because there was nobody to refer my clients to that weren't healing. So you might have hired me as a personal trainer and then tell me, Kim, I'm having these horrible hemorrhoids and I can't work out. Well, then I might refer you to a physician and then you just keep coming back with the same problem. So I'm like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to help this person work out, heal, lose weight, feel amazing if the specialist can't help them heal? And I just did not believe with my diagnoses and my personal training clients that the body was, that broken, that it couldn't heal at 20, 30, 40, 50. And so when I was forced down this path to become a holistic health expert, to heal myself, everything I was learning started healing all of my personal training clients that had been sent to like every expert you can think of, like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Northwestern, and really people all over the world, not just in America. It's happening everywhere. Now, I know that was a lot of information I just put out there. Any thoughts or things that triggers for you that you want to share with anybody?
Just the shell game, like when you're talking about, it's this cycle and it's all about this shell. And when you compare, it's real easy, simple, easy. I don't know. We'll figure out what to call it in a minute. But when someone is at the end of life, it's very simple to say, we're going to focus on quality of life, not quantity, right? Because the quantity is gone. The prognosis is poor. We're going to focus on quality of life. We're going to let them eat what they want to eat. We're going to let them sleep when they want to sleep. Why is it at the end of our lives, it all of a sudden becomes so important to everyone that we're having such a high quality of life?
Yeah, and sometimes the quality of life is just giving them morphine so they don't feel anything. It's
Exactly.
whose perception of quality of life. Yeah, it's so sad, it's so screwed up, But no, I agree with you. And so now what would you say? Because I know too, and we're gonna like recap this in about 5 minutes. I know that you would have an increase of symptoms right around your cycle. And then when your cycle started getting better, you were very hopeful and you would send me like, Kim, this is my first cycle with no pain. So you noticed an increase of your pain right when you're about to have your menstrual cycle, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah. And you and I talk about like, and we'll talk about this in our next podcast, is about how like estrogen dominance kind of makes everything kind of go haywire. And it's very common right before you're about to get your period that your estrogen is elevated in excess in reference to progesterone. So there's things you and I did together to offset that. But everybody, we got to customize it to them. We can't just throw out like any haphazard recommendations, just give you some ideas on where to look so that people know that there's actual answers and they don't have to live like this. Now, what I'd like to ask you is today, how free do you feel? How empowered do you feel with that previous diagnosis?
Um, I would say, 99.9%, if I'm being 100% honest.
That's good.
Because it's
100% honest
still
is perfect. Yeah. We
in
have
my
to
in
see
the
it.
back of my mind, it's still kind of fresh, like being healed, being pain free. It's still kind of fresh, but almost pretty much every day, I'm I'm just not pretty much every day I'm grateful uh,
Mhm.
that and I'd say things like I mention it to my husband, like we have projects that we do together, and I'm just like, I just catch myself looking around, and I'm like, look, babe, like, when I was living in the recliner or on the bed or on the floor, my son had he joined the military, and we had a going away party for him, and we had family in town. And
Mm.
I was laying on the floor at that time. I'm so sorry.
It's
I,
okay. This is the reality of it. Yeah, you're gonna
I
make me
was
cry. Hold it back.
I was laying on the floor. My mom was in town and she was cooking me food. I mean, I'm grateful, but also it's like it sucked really bad. I was existing, but I wasn't participating. I wasn't, you know, I hope I never forget how this feels, like how that felt. Um, but to be able to get up, like my husband's like, we got some painting projects, and it's getting away from like roofing and stuff like that I cannot do, and now it's like painting the front door, and helping him move drywall, and just simple things like cleaning my house, and
Mm.
and things like that, that I look around and I'm like, in that moment I'm definitely free, and I'm grateful. I think being free from the diagnosis, I feel free from it. Remembering that if I don't take care of myself, then I can go back to the way that it was.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's so true. And what I found with my healing journey, similar to yours, is that even though I could get a symptom back or a smaller like inkling of a warning, like, hey, Kim, you're overdoing it, you're not doing what you should, I no longer have fear. I don't feel powerless. Now I
Yeah.
know exactly what to do to get myself back in line, or who I need to go to get a quick checkup. Just like if your car gets out of alignment, you go to this specific person to get a realignment. I might need to have you muscle test me to like see what did I do, because like I wasn't sleeping, or maybe I did like a long road trip. So now I'm empowered, and like you said, it's strategy versus tactics, because in my world and in your world I have access to hundreds of modalities that I could choose for healing. But if it's just tactics randomly thrown, like, okay, I went to acupuncture, I went to chiropractic, I went to PT, I went to my doctor, and they're not in a specific methodical order, you feel like you went everywhere and there's no hope because you didn't get better. But it's because a lot of us are not being taught from the foundation up. Like, we go through an 8-page healing intake, like a health form. We start from like when the very first time this started, and then what's happening currently. And then we put together those puzzle pieces. And a lot of specialists are looking at like 100-piece puzzle, and the human body is like a 20,000-piece puzzle. And you have to really look at all of those puzzle pieces and help that person link them together in the right strategy so that you get the complete picture and you get the total healing, and not just like temporary relief or false hope. And so that for me, being empowered to know that I always have control until it's really my time to pass over. I have control in what my quality of life is going to be while I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely, I'm there. Like that's, I'm somewhere that I didn't think that I could be. Like you said, like I have, the little tools, and even before if I get a little like, a headache or something, that a symptom,
Mhm.
even now I know, oh, if I eat that, I'm probably going to experience something. It's going to
Yeah.
be about 24 hours.
Yeah.
I'll be okay.
Yep.
So what, is it worth it? And there are times I choose that.
Hmm.
But I know that it's going to be worth, because like enjoying a slice of pizza with my husband,
Right.
like just because we eat, steak and potatoes and
Yeah.
all these great
Other
things
things.
all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Sometimes
Exactly.
you just want to enjoy a piece of pizza. So, but I
Exactly.
know, is it going to be, I ask myself, I check in with myself even before the symptom occurs. And then if I do have a symptom, yes, you're right. It's knowing what I'm going to do about that if a symptom does arise. Where's my mind at? What have I been doing? Have I been sleeping well? All the questions to check in with yourself. And to me, that's true self-care and
Yeah.
self-love. It's that self-attention that then does help me to be the best version of myself, to
Right.
be that best participant in my life.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'm glad that you shared that, because a lot of people think they can never have anything bad again. But when you are healing, because you've taken so many withdrawals, maybe unknowingly withdrawals from your body, like if somebody, and again, we're going to wrap this up in about 2 minutes. If I know I said 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago, but when it's good, it's good. We got to go with where we're led. We can't just be scripted. So, what I explain to people is if you had to declare bankruptcy, like financial bankruptcy, you have to be like perfect afterwards with your credit, your deposits, without taking a lot of withdrawals to get your credit score back to normal as quickly as possible. By the time some people meet me, especially because a lot of people don't know this exists or they don't know about preventative care, but by the time they see Jess or I, they're often nutritionally and physically bankrupt, sometimes spiritually bankrupt with some trauma that happened. So when we meet, they sometimes have to take a hard right or a hard left in the opposite direction and almost live perfect like a valedictorian. To, like, let's say you failed the first semester in college and you have to be like straight A's just to get to a C. Sometimes you've been failing your body unknowingly, and now you have to live perfect to get it back to normal because all these cells that have to regenerate. Then once you're back to where you want to be, and I'm not saying perfect, but 90% at least, you can't like say like 80-20, 70-30, or I'm going to have pizza every week and alcohol every week until I heal. Some people will heal doing whatever they want, but 90% of people have to change their life a little bit to heal. And then once you get through your healing process, living like 80-20 and never going back to exactly who you were, but having pizza with your husband or having a drink or going to a family event and having some cake is really not going to cause any long-term damage. But if you think you can do that all the time or go back to who you were, like overtraining or not sleeping at night, or again, doing something that's damaging to your body, then of course your old symptoms are going to come back. But again, what's awesome is that you're going to remember where you were. You're going to remember that there's answers, and now you know where to look. You feel much more empowered versus seeing 6 specialists. Like for me, I had been to so many specialists and they all told me like, there's nothing we can do. It's just stress. You have to live with it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to die of stage 4 colon cancer before they find this, or my heart's going to fail. And you think, who else do I go to? I've been to a specialist and they have no answers. So you get very depressed. Fear starts to take over. I completely changed my life to homeschool my daughter because I thought I was going to be dead in a couple of years. And I wanted to spend quality time with her. So once you get answers and that fear is no longer there and you feel heard and you feel believed in, like if some specialist says there's no cure, and then you meet with a holistic health practitioner and says, oh yeah, this can definitely heal. Like a lot of people have told me what Jess says, like my hope and belief in them and in their body, it was a big piece to their healing because they knew that, like, they didn't see any wavering in my faith. And I will not BS somebody. If I know it's going to be difficult to heal or that it's maybe a little bit more impossible based on their lifestyle, I'm going to tell them the truth. So if I tell somebody that, no, you're going to heal this, I 100% know you're going to heal this, because I'm not going to ruin my integrity, my reputation, even spiritually, my relationship with God. I have nothing to gain from trying to give somebody false hope. You know, it's a really big deal for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a key. That's
Yeah.
definitely a key. And I can attest to what you're saying about the living. I mean, for that year, I was as close to perfect again.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to back off a little of
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
that was actually inhibiting my healing.
Yes, perfect can also inhibit healing. Neuroticism can
But
inhibit healing. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
complete 180 though with lifestyle, how I was eating, etc.
Yeah.
100% correct. That's what it took for me.
Uh-huh.
But every step of the way, it was worth it. Every piece of it was absolutely worth it.
No, I agree with you. And thank you for your trust. Thank you for your perseverance. It really is an honor. It's more important than anything to me that people put their trust in me to help them through that process. Because as you see, we're talking about very intimate things, and there's so many emotions up and down, and especially when dealing with chronic pain. So the number one thing I can thank you for is for trusting me through that process. And I'm just so grateful to see you on the other side of this. And I'm so grateful to know that you are now helping people heal, and it's spreading throughout the world. That's the goal, because we need people to know what's in our heads so that we can reduce these negative health statistics, because there's so many more answers that we have not discovered or that people don't know exist.
I'm
Well,
excited
then,
to be part of it.
me too. Thanks, Jess, for joining me. You and I are going to get together for another podcast soon, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.